morning, good afternoon, and good night. You're watching Just a Mom That Sims. I'm here today to bring you a brand new series called Redemption's Journey. This episode is a prequel episode to a Sims 4 for rent expansion pack. So if you like my content, please like, subscribe, follow, comment, do all the things. Precia Hope is a 22-year-old young adult. She is from Henford on Bagley. Her and her husband, Bowen Pritchett, now live in Willow Creek. They met at the age of 16, went on a few dates, and Bowen proposed. So Crecia is sitting here now in their humble abode on the computer that they bought years ago when they first moved in. It's on its last leg now, but she is doing some work interactions for her brand new job as a bank teller. This is such a promising career for her because when her and Bowen met, they had to rush to get part time jobs once they got married. At 16, Bowen was a lifeguard and Crecia worked as a barista. And so this is a big step up for her. It pays 10 simoleons an hour. So she wants to get a head start on work. There is something else that she is doing on the computer, but we will get into that in a moment. In the meantime, Bowen is out here fishing. This is Bowen Pritchett, who is also 22 years old, young adult. His facial hair is finally coming in, and he's been quite proud of that. Owen actually comes out and he fishes to earn extra money and extra food for the house. Owen grew up right here in Willow Creek. He comes from a beginning that was pretty impoverished. Bowen grew up with his father. They lost his mother when he was 7 years of age. Bowen had a very lonely childhood. Cressy is in here. I do believe she has finished her work and she's been very self reflective. If we look at their relationship, their friendship is still really good, although they don't talk as much as they used to talk. But their romance has dropped to about 50%. From the beginning, they were never very intimate with each other. This was very much a relationship built on the friendship. They were there for each other when they needed it. They were there through the hard times that their decisions created. But it was she and him against the world that bonded them. So Bowen is going to come on home. Crescia has actually cooked some noodles for them to eat. Looking at their finances, they have 905 simoleons, which is a leg up from when they were kids. They stay in this home, and it is a micro home. There used to be two chairs outside, two folding chairs. They would sit out and talk and watch the neighbors walk by, just people watching. But one chair broke, and maybe it's symbolic of their relationship. But Cressy is sitting here and she's hopped back onto the work website to do some more analyzing. Actually have a training coming up soon. There was a time when if Bowen grabbed the play, he would sit here and they would just chat while they did whatever because that was just their dynamic. Now, sometimes they're like two shifts passing in the day and the night. When they talk, they have good conversations. It's just not happening as often. Since they moved into the shack, they've been able to upgrade some of their furniture in here, and they are very proud of that. They still have the same old dirty carpet. The flooring in the bathroom is still cracked. Though they've been able to replace the sofa and bed and refrigerator and stove, it's just not where either one of them would probably prefer to be. If they could live and slightly better accommodations, they would be happy. And they probably felt like they could achieve that after 6 years. Bowen has also been reflecting. He has this tiny garden over here that he uses to grow a few fruits and vegetables. He puts them in the refrigerator to help cut down on food costs. And he also goes to the market in Henford and Bagley and sells some. Cynthia is actually going to call. She's going to talk to her father, Neil, first. When they got married, her mother did put her out the house, but her father gave them a little money to enough to get this place and to get some furniture from the flea market and thrift store and to get started. Looking back, Cressy is very grateful for her parents. A lot of things you just don't realize, but Looking back in hindsight, she realizes that her parents were right. And though at the time she could not believe that her mother was doing this to her, she also understands. This is Judd Pritchett. This is Bowen's dad calling. And so he absolutely is going to talk to him when he gets up. Now, Cressia had been researching her genealogy years ago because when her mother put her out, she started researching genealogy, and it looks like she's found a long lost relatives, Haley Shaya, which looks like Cressia's twin. So she's gonna get on up and do a funny introductions. Let's see. I'm not sure how they're related, and this has been a twist. They're cousins. I don't know what Bowen will think about this. Feel free to sleep on the couch. I'm glad that I found you after all these years. So she guesses her profile was still active on the genealogy website. She's like, I'm really glad that I got on the site. I just got on there recently, and the DNA test said we're related. And it turns out she's warm hearted. So this could be a good thing. But jumping back, Bowen has been on flirty all his life. And Cressia have been woohooed and probably 8, 9 months. Cressia is a very flirty sim. She's resigned to this is our relationship. She does want more. And this is crazy because look how fast her relationship with Haley built. Cressia has been on the Senda dating app and she has met someone and she is really, really feeling like she is in love. She's been chatting with this guy. He lives in a different world. She's got a training coming up in that same world in about 1 week. So she has been really thinking about going to meet him, but she knows that that would be a life changing decision. She can tell herself all she wants that it's a friendship. She knows there's romantic feelings. Her husband of 6 years at 22 years old, he has never been a romantic sim. They've tried to talk about it. Nothing at all has changed. She just feels stuck sometimes, but Haley is a breath of fresh air. But as she stands here talking to her new relative and thinking about Bowen, it takes her back to a time past. Bowen is in the shower and he is also thinking about a time past as well. So let's jump back to 12 years ago when Bowen and Cressia were both 10 years old. At 10 years old, Bowen really looked forward to these times with his father. It seemed that they didn't come around often enough. It had been a few years since his mom had passed, and sometimes it seemed that his dad was never around. In hindsight, Bowen now understood that his dad had to pay bills. At 10 years old, however, he did not understand the significance of the stack of envelopes on the counter. So Bowen cleaned up. He did as he was told. He went to bed when he was supposed to, even if there was no one around to tell him. Now he knows that his dad couldn't afford childcare. Now he knows that his dad did not want to leave. His dad would even think to leave him notes to tell him to take care of himself and that he loved him. He would leave food in the fridge for Bowen, food that he grew himself in their home garden. But Judd, Bowen's dad, could not leave time. Judd always looked so tired coming home, but all Bowen ever saw was the smile on his face when he greeted his dad with a hug. He had been so blind back then. He can remember his dad looking tired and them fishing in the river right behind the house. He can remember his dad fishing with him until he would almost go to sleep where he stood. But then he remembered all the times he would fish alone, and he wished he had saw things differently back then. Maybe things would have been different. Cressia Hope never felt confident, especially with her prominent birthmark on her neck. She went out of her way to wear high collared shirts to cover it up. She didn't like what she saw when she looked in the mirror. Her mother, Maureen, would try to reassure her, but it is called self love for a reason after all. Words could not make Cressia feel better about herself. She also felt a little larger than the other children. So she smiled when Maureen talked as much as possible, but it did not change the way she felt inside. As Bowen grew into a teenager, he felt more and more out of place. With his hand me down clothes and his makeshift haircut, He just felt like he stuck out like a sore thumb. Looking back, he had everything he needed and did not realize it. Meanwhile, as Cressia grew into adolescence, she also developed acne and more weight came. Her confidence grew smaller and smaller. Although she tried to be more outgoing, she took a stance of faking it until she made it. At night, she would cry herself to sleep because her self confidence, her self love was just not there. Her father, Neil, would often tell her she was beautiful, but how could she trust that? He had to say that, right? Because that's what dads are supposed to do. Then one night, as Cressia was hanging out with her friends at a karaoke bar, fate intervened. Sitting at the bar, drinking a juice on the rocks, she saw a lonely, sad boy sitting in the corner. She made her way over. She said hello, and their futures were forever changed. A few months later, while out on a beautiful date in Tartosa, Bowen shocked her by getting down on one knee and proposing. Of course, Cressia said yes. How could she not? He was her friend and she loved him, and that was all that mattered. Of course, Bowen had to tell his father, and they quickly found out that was not all that mattered. While his father tried to remain calm, and tried to be understanding, he did get upset with Bowen. It was one of the worst arguments they had ever had in a time in his life that was only matched by his mother's passing. And in that moment, Judd gave Bowen an ultimatum. You can either slow things down, continue to date Cressia, but if you persist on moving forward with marriage, you must leave my home. In Henford on Bagley, Cressia was telling her mom and dad, Maureen and Neil Hope, about her engagement, and Maureen was livid. It was absolutely the worst fight she had ever seen or been a part of in her household. Neil tried to remain calm. He tried to let cooler heads prevail. He tried to talk them down. However, when it came down to it, both parents were between a rock and a hard place, and Maureen told her, if you're going to be married, you all cannot stay with us. You have to get out. And Cressia said she would. Cressia and Bowen were married at 16 years old. Back then, their little shack seemed a little bit bigger. They didn't mind working to clean it together. Everything just seemed different, even though she was worlds away from home. To her, friendship meant love. Sure, they weren't always romantic, but isn't that normal? At 16 years old, Cressia didn't know. She didn't mind them struggling together. They felt connected. They would be together forever, right? Cressia's father paid for the little house. Her mother was so angry. Her dad was not going to leave her out with nothing, but they were a family of humble means. Bowen came from poverty. His dad struggled to provide for them all of their lives, but he could not see that. All he thought was, why does no one want to be around me? His father spent every moment he could with him. As a child, Bowen did not understand having to work constantly. So Cressy approached him in that karaoke club. He felt a connection right away. When he looked at her, he saw a future of not being alone. They have 260 simoleons to their name, and they've had worse. He does not mistreat Cressy in any way. He cherishes their relationship, but he doesn't have a lot of romantic feelings in general. He has some, so he knows that it's there. Knowing that he has someone who will be by his side is the most important thing. Cressia, she's romantic. She has a hedonistic trait. She's generous, she's outgoing, and gregarious at this age. Bowen is more shy, loves outdoors. He's good and a quick learner. At this point, they have only known each other for a few months. The decision to get married was fast. Bowen proposed quickly. Cressida has always fought her insecurities, as you saw, and even now she still got acne going on. She has stopped wearing so much makeup, trying to cover it. She has stopped wearing high neck clothes all the time to cover her birthmark that is on her neck over here. As she got older, she got a little thicker, but to her, she hasn't always looked at it as being thick. A lot of times she feels fat. It didn't matter that Maureen and Neil Hope, her parents, were reassuring. For Bowen, he couldn't see at this age that his father was just trying his best. But let's go over and look at his genes. They're very holy and not in a good sense. Bowen would never spend hard earned money on jeans already ripped because he has all of his life had to wear hand me down and used clothes. Maureen did ask Cressia to come over and she agreed. She doesn't know where to start with her mom, so she's gonna approach her and she's just gonna ask how she's been. Cressia is from Henford on Bagley, and this is her family's home. See, it's a very nice home, but it's small. So she grew up of, like I said, humble means. Her parents raised the chickens. They also farm giant crops only. Cressia is wanting to go, and you can see her relationship where her dad failed some, but he did give them thousand simoleons. He could not see his baby girl sleeping on the street. And neither of them has a hobby that earns money like painting. So they're really finding their way in life like a 16-year-old would. Most 16-year-olds don't have life figured out. As Cressia thinks back on this time, she has so many fond memories, so many regrets, so many questions. There were just things in life that Cressia and Bowen did not understand at 16 years old. But when you are that age, you feel like you know what you know. Cressia wishes that she had never made the decision to marry Bowen. Maybe things would have been different if they had dated. Maybe things wouldn't have been. She has no way of knowing. But all she knows is that in that moment, they were truly happy. In that moment, they felt like they had everything that they needed. In that moment, it didn't matter how often they woohooed, that they hardly ever kissed, but they were best friends. And she loved him and he loved her. And all that mattered was that they were married and they were together. Keep simming, be happy, and always have a blessed day. Bye bye.